The massive council chamber floated in the darkness between stars. Inside, representatives from 237 alien species gathered together. Some looked like giant insects. Others appeared as floating clouds of gas. A few resembled living crystals that sparkled under the chamber lights. At the center of this strange assembly stood one human man in a simple, gray suit. Daniel Hayes stood perfectly still as hundreds of alien eyes watched him. He had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now, and he had learned to move slowly around these creatures. They frightened easily. Even his smallest gestures made them flinch. The Velcrin leader raised several of its thin arms. The creature looked like a praying mantis mixed with flowing water. Its translation device crackled to life, with harsh clicking sounds. The decision has been made. Humanity has broken our laws. You have settled on 4 worlds that we marked as forbidden zones. You refuse to stop your expansion. You build weapons. You train soldiers. You are too dangerous to exist freely in our galaxy. Daniel said nothing. He simply waited. Around the chamber, aliens nodded their various heads and appendages in agreement. They had finally united against the humans. It had taken them 60 years. But fear had brought them together at last. We give you 30 days, the Velcrin continued. Remove your people from the disputed worlds. Give us control of your military. Allow us to monitor your activities. If you refuse, we will use force. A floating sphere of organized lightning pulsed brightly. The translation came through as an angry voice. Your kind should never have been allowed into space. Your planet would crush most of us with its gravity. Your air is poison. Your diseases kill. Even your entertainment celebrates violence and death. Daniel finally moved. He clasped his hands behind his back. A dozen aliens near him jumped backward. He had noticed this reaction many times before. They had evolved on gentle worlds with light gravity and calm weather. They had never known real predators until they met humans. Are you finished? Daniel asked calmly. The Velcrin leader trembled. 30 days, human. The chamber erupted in strange sounds. Squeaks, chirps, buzzes, and pulses that the translation system could not handle. Daniel stood motionless through it all. His face showed nothing. When the noise died down, he spoke quietly. 30 days. I understand. He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps made the platform vibrate slightly. Several aliens moved away from his path. Just before the door closed, Daniel looked back over his shoulder. A small, cold smile crossed his face. It held no warmth, no humor, only a predator's calculation. I will tell my government about your decision. They will be very interested. The door sealed shut. The chamber fell silent. The Velcrin leader tried to look confident, but several delegates noticed the shaking in its limbs. Deep underground on Earth, beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Christine Boyd read the message from Daniel. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. Then she looked up at the military commanders gathered around the table. They actually declared war on us, she said. General Marcus Webb leaned back in his chair. He was an old soldier with scars on his face and gray in his hair. Do they understand what they are asking for? No, Christine replied simply. They really do not. She pressed a button on the table. Across human space, military bases received the alert. Fleets that had been waiting in hidden positions began to move. Ships powered up their weapons. Soldiers checked their equipment. Marines loaded into dropships. Humanity had tried to make peace for 60 years. They had negotiated. They had compromised. They had followed most of the alien rules. But humanity had also prepared for this moment. Because that is what survivors do. That is what people from a death world do. On the colony world of New Haven, Governor Paul Wright received the war warning. He immediately activated the emergency protocols. Sirens wailed across the settlements. Civilians reported to their designated shelters. The local militia began manning the defense platforms. New Haven was one of the disputed worlds. The aliens called it a death world, too dangerous for settlement. The gravity was heavy. The atmosphere was thick. Storms raged across the surface. Predators hunted in the jungles. To humans, it was just another Tuesday. Paul looked at the planet from his office window. 2 million people lived here now. They had built cities, farms, schools, and hospitals. They had families. Children played in parks designed to withstand the harsh weather. This was home. Let them come, Paul said to his deputy. We will show them what Deathworlders can do. In orbit above Earth, the First Fleet began final preparations. These were humanity's finest ships, built in secret over the past 20 years. The aliens thought humans only had a small defense force. They were wrong. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his frigate, Shadowrunner. The ship was small, fast, and designed to be invisible to alien sensors. Jake and his crew had trained for years in stealth operations. They had studied every alien species in the Council. They knew their weaknesses, their fears, their blind spots. All systems ready, reported his second-in-command, Helen Brooks. Stealth fields operating at full capacity. They will not see us coming, Jake nodded. Good. We move out in 6 hours. Time to teach Admiral Christine Boyd stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed the alien fleet gathering near the Velcrin home world. She counted the ships carefully. 3,000 vessels, all arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Look at their formation, said General Marcus Webb, pointing at the display. They are arranging themselves for a parade, not a battle. Christine zoomed in closer. The alien ships formed beautiful circles and spirals in space. Each vessel had bright running lights that made patterns in the darkness. It looked impressive. It looked powerful. It looked completely wrong for actual combat. They have never fought a real war, observed Colonel Lisa Martinez. She had spent 5 years studying alien military history. Their last conflict was 800 years ago. It was a border dispute between 2 species. 3 days long. 2 casualties total. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. We lost more people than that in last month's training exercises. Christine pulled up the alien ultimatum again. She read through their demands slowly. Disarm all military forces. Abandon 12 colony worlds. Submit to alien oversight. Limit human population growth. The list continued for pages. They do not understand what they are asking, Christine said quietly. They think we are like them. That we will simply obey when they threaten us. A communication screen activated. Ambassador Daniel Hayes appeared. He was still on the transport ship, returning from the Alien Council station. His diplomatic mask was gone now. His real face showed through. Hard and calculating. Admiral, I need to brief you about the aliens' mental state. They are terrified of us. Christine raised an eyebrow. Terrified? They just declared war with a fleet 3 times our size. Exactly. They are so afraid that they are lashing out. Like a cornered animal. Daniel pulled up his notes. During the council session, I counted 47 different species that physically recoiled when I simply moved my hand. The Velcrin leader had to drug itself just to stand in the same room with me. Lisa leaned forward with interest. But why declare war if they are that frightened? Daniel explained patiently. Because we represent everything they have bred out of their societies over thousands of years. Competition, aggression, violence. We remind them that the universe is not actually safe. They hate us for it. Marcus brought up Earth's military readiness reports. What they do not know is that we have been ready for this since first contact. Every colony has defense platforms. Every civilian ship has hidden weapons. Every settlement has trained militia. Christine nodded. We learned our lessons the hard way. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. That is not paranoia. That is survival. The holographic display showed human fleet positions in blue dots. Scattered across 30 star systems, They looked insignificant compared to the concentrated alien armada. But looks could deceive. "How long until they attack?" Daniel asked. "Based on their ultimatum, 28 days remain," Christine answered. "But I want everything ready in 20 days." She began issuing orders rapidly. The 7th Fleet would fall back to defend the colony worlds. The 2nd and 5th Fleets would position themselves to attack alien supply lines. The 1st Fleet would stay in the solar system as Earth's final defense. "What about rules of engagement?" Lisa asked carefully. The room went quiet. This question had haunted every planning meeting. How far would humanity go to win this war? Christine looked at each officer present. "We fight defensively, only. We did not start this war. We will not commit atrocities. But we will end it." Her voice became steel. "We show them exactly why cornering a predator is a fatal mistake. But we do it without becoming the monsters they think we are." Marcus nodded his approval. "Hit them hard. Hit them fast. Make them regret every wrong assumption they made about us." Daniel added another thought. "The aliens have never encountered human information warfare. They do not understand propaganda, or psychological operations, or deception. Their communications are completely honest and open." A slow smile crossed Christine's face. "We can use that. I am thinking," Daniel said, "that while they mass their pretty fleet for a show of force, we can be 3 steps ahead in ways they will not comprehend until too late." Across human space, the preparations intensified rapidly. On colony worlds, civilians who had never expected to fight practiced emergency drills. Engineers who built cities now constructed defensive walls and weapon emplacements. Scientists who explored new planets now developed countermeasures to alien technology. On New Haven, Governor Paul Wright watched his people prepare. Farmers secured their crops in underground bunkers. Teachers trained in first aid and weapons handling. Even children knew what to do when the sirens sounded. "How long do we have?" asked his deputy, Karen Foster. 3 weeks, maybe less," Paul replied. Karen looked worried. "Can we hold?" Paul smiled grimly. "This planet kills alien species just by existing. The gravity, the atmosphere, the wildlife. They cannot even land here without protective suits, but we thrive here. This is our home, and nobody takes a human's home without paying a terrible price." In orbit above New Haven, 15 human warships took up defensive positions. They were led by the battlecruiser Indomitable, with Admiral Christine Boyd herself in command. She had moved her flag here deliberately. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would get one. On the bridge, her tactical officer Peter Hayes studied the sensor readings. He was Daniel's younger brother, promoted rapidly for his skills. "The orbital defense grid is online," Peter reported. "Every platform is armed and ready. The surface installations are manned. We have turned this colony into a fortress." Christine examined the defensive setup with satisfaction. "Good. When the aliens arrive, they will not find helpless victims. They will find Deathworlders defending their home." Meanwhile, 12 small human ships slipped quietly into space near the alien gathering point. These were stealth frigates, designed to be invisible. Their hulls absorbed scanner beams. Their engines produced almost no heat signature. They moved in the blind spots of alien sensors. Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of these ghost ships. He watched the alien fleet through passive sensors only. They were still arranging themselves in those beautiful, useless formations. "They are so confident," observed Helen Brooks, his tactical officer. "They think this will be easy." Jake smiled without humor. "Let them think that. Confidence makes you careless. Fear makes you careful. We are about to teach them the difference." The human ships did not attack. Not yet. Instead, they simply watched and learned. They mapped every alien vessel. They identified command ships and supply vessels. They found weaknesses in the formations. They listened to alien communications, and they waited like predators in tall grass, invisible and patient. Back on Earth, in a public broadcast, humanity's president spoke to the people. Her name was Victoria Kane, and she had been elected partly because of her strong. The alien armada moved through space like a metal cloud. 3,000 ships arranged in perfect circles and spirals, their running lights blazing brightly. Aboard the flagship Eternal Harmony, Chancellor Zorath watched the forward displays with satisfaction. 3 days until we reach the human colony called New Haven, reported the navigation officer. The officer was a Threen, a being made of organized lightning contained in a force field. The humans have not evacuated. No military response detected. Zorath's translator device conveyed approval. As expected. They understand they cannot win against our numbers. What Zorath did not see were the 12 small human ships following the fleet. These stealth vessels moved in the sensor blind spots, using technology and tactics the aliens had never imagined. Their crews had trained for years in the art of hunting. Aboard the frigate Shadowrunner, Captain Jake Morrison studied the alien fleet through passive sensors. His second-in-command, Helen Brooks, analyzed their movements with software built on centuries of human warfare experience. They are maintaining that parade formation, Helen said, highlighting weak points in their defensive coverage. Their important ships are in the center, surrounded by rings of smaller vessels. It looks impressive, but tactically it is terrible. Jake nodded slowly. What about their weapons? Energy weapons mostly. Plasma cannons with a range of 200,000 kilometers. Some missiles. But not nuclear. More like kinetic projectiles. Helen compared the data to human systems. Effective against shields, less so against armor. And their reload times are very slow. Shields before armor, Jake noted. They never developed backup defense systems. One layer of protection only. A secure communication came through from Admiral Christine Boyd on Earth. Her face appeared on the screen, broadcasting across encrypted channels to all stealth units. All shadow units, this is command. The alien fleet will reach New Haven in 72 hours. Operation Deathworld is approved. Show them what they are dealing with. Jake smiled. It was not a kind smile. Understood, Admiral. Shadowrunner is in position. Across the vast distance, 12 human ships began their work. They did not attack directly. That would come later. Instead, they did something the aliens had never experienced in their peaceful history. They hunted. The first alien ship to vanish was a supply vessel on the outer edge of the fleet. It simply went dark. All systems offline. When investigation teams arrived, they found the crew unconscious, but unharmed. The ship's computer core had been removed. A message was painted on the bridge wall, in glowing letters. We know everything about you now. You know nothing about us. 6 hours later, a communications relay ship reported strange contacts on sensors. Then, it went silent. When found, the ship was intact, but its entire sensor array had been dismantled. In its place was human technology broadcasting a continuous video loop. The videos showed Earth predators hunting. Lions taking down prey. Wolves working as packs. Sharks circling in dark water. Humans tracking animals across endless plains, following them for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The message was simple. This is what lived on our world. This is what we became better than. By the third day, panic spread through the alien fleet. Ships reported phantom contacts that appeared and vanished. Crews heard strange sounds in the hull. Several vessels detected weapon locks. But when they turned to face the threat, nothing was there. The aliens had encountered psychological warfare for the first time. They had no framework to understand it. No defense against it. It was like fighting ghosts. They are playing with us, observed Admiral Kethix, a silicon-based being on the flagship. Like cats playing with mice before the kill. Impossible, Zorath insisted, but uncertainty crept into the translation. They have barely 40 ships in this region. We have 3,000. Numbers guarantee victory. That was when the real demonstration began. The human frigate Ghost Knife dropped its stealth field directly above the flagship. So close that every alarm screamed at once. For exactly 3 seconds, it hung there. Its weapons were clearly locked on the bridge, targeting lasers painted Zorath's command chair. Then it vanished. No shot fired. No damage done. Just a message delivered clearly. We can kill you whenever we want. Similar demonstrations happened across the fleet. Human ships appeared at point-blank range, held position just long enough to prove they could strike, then disappeared like smoke. They violated every alien assumption about warfare being conducted at safe, predictable distances. Aboard Shadowrunner, Helen monitored alien communications. They are panicking. Half the fleet wants to return home. Several species are threatening to withdraw from the Alliance. We? Good, Jake said quietly. Fear is honest. It is the first real emotion they have felt about us. Not contempt. Not superiority. Fear. But the lesson was not complete. The aliens needed to understand one more thing about humanity. As the fleet approached New Haven, they did not find a defenseless colony. They found a fortress. Orbital platforms bristled with weapons of every type. The planet's surface showed defense grids that could turn the sky into a wall of fire. Every civilian ship had been armed. Every settlement was fortified. And orbiting the colony in perfect formation were 15 human warships. Their weapons were powered up. Their crews were ready. At the head of this small fleet was the battlecruiser Indomitable, commanded by Admiral Christine Boyd herself. She broadcast on all alien frequencies. Her image appeared on every ship's display throughout the fleet. This is Admiral Christine Boyd of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 3 options. She held up one finger. 1. Turn back now and we will consider this a misunderstanding. A second finger. 2. Continue your approach and discover why we call ourselves Deathworlders. A third finger. 3. Attack and learn the difference between civilization and weakness. She leaned forward. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. Choose wisely. Because unlike you, we have done this before. We have fought wars that would destroy your governments. We have survived extinctions that would end your species. And we are very, very good at it. The transmission ended. Silence filled the void between the two fleets. Aboard Eternal Harmony, Chancellor Zorath stared at the impossible situation. The easy conquest had become a nightmare. The show of force had turned into a demonstration of human capabilities that terrified every species in the fleet. "What do we do?" asked the navigation officer, its electromagnetic field flickering with fear. Zorath had no answer. The Chancellor looked at the tactical display. 15 human ships against 3,000 alien vessels. By numbers, the aliens should win easily. But numbers did not account for training. Numbers did not account for experience. Numbers did not account for the fact that humans had been fighting wars since before they discovered fire. In the council chamber aboard the flagship, the alliance began to fracture. Species that had united in fear now argued in panic. "This is madness," declared one ambassador. "We should attack immediately. We have overwhelming numbers." "And lose how many ships?" countered another. "Did you not see what their stealth vessels did? 12 ships penetrated our entire fleet, without being detected once." "Perhaps we should negotiate," suggested a third voice timidly. "Negotiate?" "They violated our laws. They must submit." "Submit, or what?" The question hung in the air. "We came to enforce compliance. Instead, we discovered that a species 1/20th our size has military capabilities we never imagined. What does that tell you?" It told them something they did not want to hear. That their assumptions about Deathworlders had been catastrophically wrong. While the aliens argued, Admiral Christine Boyd played chess with Peter Hayes on the bridge of Indomitable. The calm aboard the human ship contrasted sharply with the alien panic. "They are arguing," reported the communications officer, monitoring transmissions. 17 species have requested to withdraw. The Velkrin are trying to hold the coalition together, but it is falling apart. Let them argue, Christine said, moving her knight. Every hour they debate is an hour we use to position more ships. Peter studied the board, then glanced at the tactical display. They will eventually do something. Pride will not let them just turn around. I am counting on it, Christine replied calmly. Check. She knew exactly what she was doing. The aliens had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found prepared defenses, invisible hunters, and a demonstration of capabilities that shook their entire worldview. Now they had to choose. Turn back and admit defeat before firing a shot, or attack and face casualties on a scale their peaceful civilizations had not experienced in millennia. The standoff at New Haven lasted 36 hours. 3,000 alien ships faced 15 human warships across a distance that in space terms was barely anything at all. Neither side moved. Neither side blinked. The tension stretched like a wire ready to snap. Aboard the flagship Eternal Harmony, the alien coalition began to crumble from within. In the council chamber, species that had stood united now shouted at each other through their translation devices. We must attack now, demanded Ambassador Thrix of the Colax. The crystalline being's structure rang with agitation. We have overwhelming numbers. One decisive strike will end this. And how many ships will we lose? Challenged Representative Sola of the Methrix. The gaseous creature swirled inside its containment suit. Their stealth vessels struck us 12 times. Without being detected once. 12 times. Chancellor Zorith tried to maintain order, but the arguments continued. Fear had brought them together. That same fear was now tearing them apart. Perhaps negotiation is wise, suggested Elder Vorn of the peaceful Lumina species. Their bioluminescent body pulsed with calming colors. Negotiation? Thrix's voice rose sharply. They are the ones who broke our laws. They are the ones who must submit to us. Submit or what? Vorn pressed the question. We came here to enforce compliance. Instead, we have discovered that a species with 1/20th our numbers has military capabilities beyond our imagination. What does that tell you about our assumptions? The question hung in the air like smoke. It told them something terrible. That everything they believed about death, worlders, was wrong. That numerical superiority meant nothing against an enemy who actually knew how to fight. Meanwhile, aboard the human battlecruiser Indomitable, life continued with calm routine. Admiral Christine Boyd sat in her ready room, reviewing tactical reports and drinking coffee. Her communications officer, Amy Walsh, monitored the alien transmissions with growing amusement. They are still arguing, Amy reported. Now, 21 species have formally requested to withdraw from the alliance. The Velkrin are losing control of their coalition. Christine nodded without surprise. How long has it been since they faced actual opposition? According to our records, their last military conflict was 800 years ago. It lasted 3 days. 3 days, Christine repeated softly. We have had longer training exercises. She took another sip of coffee. Let them argue. Every hour they waste is another hour we use to improve our position. On the bridge, Peter Hayes played chess with the tactical officer. The relaxed atmosphere aboard the human ship stood in sharp contrast to the panic gripping the alien fleet. Do you think they will actually attack? Asked the tactical officer. Peter studied the board before answering. Eventually, yes. Pride is a powerful force. They cannot just turn around after making such grand threats. But we are ready for them. We have been ready since they first declared war, Peter replied, moving his piece. The question is whether they are ready for what happens when they attack us. Across human space, the chess pieces were indeed moving into position. The Second Fleet had quietly positioned itself along the alien supply routes. The Fifth Fleet shadowed their reserve forces from the shadows. In the solar system, the First Fleet stood ready around Earth itself, the ultimate defensive line. But more importantly, Human intelligence had infiltrated every level of alien communications. Every debate, every tactical discussion, every frightened conversation was intercepted, translated, analyzed, and used to refine human strategy. On Earth, General Marcus Webb briefed the civilian government leaders in a secure facility. The alien coalition is collapsing, he explained to the assembled senators and ministers. Their alliance is held together only by shared fear of us. But that same fear is destroying their unity. They have never faced an enemy that fights the way we do. Senator Patricia Green asked the important question. What happens if they do attack New Haven? Marcus answered without hesitation. We bloody their nose. Hard. We show them the real cost of aggression. But we do not pursue beyond our borders. We do not escalate unnecessarily. What is the message we want to send? That Deathworlders do not surrender. That we protect what is ours. But also, that we are not monsters. We can show restraint, even in victory. Back in space, the breaking point came from an unexpected direction. Ambassador Daniel Hayes, broadcasting from Earth, sent a private communication request to Chancellor Zorath. Against the advice of security officers, the Chancellor accepted. Daniel's face appeared on a private screen. For the first time, Zorath saw a human without the diplomatic mask. Just honest directness. Chancellor, we should talk. Just the two of us. No councils, no fleets, no posturing. Two beings trying to avoid catastrophe. What is there to discuss? Zorath replied, the translator conveying bitterness. You violated our laws. No. Daniel corrected gently. We settled worlds you designated as too dangerous for your species. Death worlds. Like Earth. His expression remained calm but firm. You quarantined those worlds because they would kill your people. They are just home to us. That is not violation. That is you being unable to understand that what is poison to you is air to us. Zorath said nothing, processing this perspective. Your fleet is falling apart. Daniel continued. 21 species want to leave. More will follow. Because deep in their evolutionary memory, they recognize what we are. And they know that 3,000 ships mean nothing if those ships are crewed by beings who have never had to fight for survival. Are you threatening us? No. Daniel's voice was soft, but absolutely firm. I am offering you a way out. Pull back your fleet. Return to the Council. We will negotiate new agreements that recognize our differences instead of forcing conformity on everyone. Or see what happens when you corner a predator that has been showing restraint. The transmission ended. Zorath stared at the blank screen while advisors argued about honor and strength and maintaining credibility. But the Chancellor was not listening anymore, because Zorath had realized something terrifying. Humanity had been holding back. Every demonstration, every stealth attack, every show of capability had been carefully measured to intimidate, without destroying. The humans could have devastated the fleet at any point. They had the positions, the weapons, the tactical advantages. But they had not. Not because they were weak. Because they were giving the aliens a chance to back down with dignity. It was the most predatory move of all. Showing mercy to prove dominance. Offering escape to demonstrate superiority. It was brilliant and horrifying in equal measure. Zorath made the decision before more lives were risked. Begin fleet withdrawal. Immediately. This enforcement action is suspended pending new negotiations. The council chamber erupted in protests. Some called it cowardice, others called it wisdom. But Zorath silenced them all with a gesture. We are leaving. Those who wish to remain and fight the humans alone are welcome to do so. Nobody took the offer. As the alien fleet began its long retreat, Admiral Christine Boyd watched from the bridge of Indomitable. No celebration, no gloating, just quiet professional satisfaction. Should we pursue? Peter asked. No, they learned the lesson. No need to humiliate them further. She turned to Amy. Send a message to all human ships. Stand down to alert status. Maintain defensive positions, but no aggressive maneuvers. What about Ambassador Hayes? Christine smiled slightly. Tell him well done. He just won a war, without firing a single shot. Across the human fleet, weapons powered down. Not completely. Just enough to show they were no longer in immediate attack posture. But every crew remained at their stations. Every sensor stayed active, because humans knew that a retreating enemy could still be dangerous. On New Haven, Governor Paul Wright watched the alien fleet turn away. He allowed himself one long breath of relief before activating the colony-wide communication system. Attention all residents. The immediate threat has passed. The alien fleet is withdrawing. Maintain alert status for the next 72 hours. Then we will begin standing down to normal operations. 6 months after the retreat from New Haven, the Galactic Council reconvened under very different circumstances. The Grand Chamber that once echoed with unified condemnation of humanity now buzzed with fractured debates and uncertain alliances. Ambassador Daniel Hayes walked through the corridor toward the assembly hall. This time, the reaction from other delegates was different. Some nodded in greeting. Others avoided eye contact entirely. A few representatives from species that had quietly opened talks with Earth offered respectful gestures. The galaxy had changed in 6 months. Inside the chamber, Chancellor Zorath stood at the central podium. The Velkrin leader looked different somehow. The confidence from their previous meeting had evaporated, replaced by weary pragmatism. The Council recognizes Ambassador Hayes of Earth, Zorath announced. The formality carried new weight now. Daniel took his position, looking out at the assembled species. Thank you, Chancellor. I come with proposals for a new framework of coexistence, not the expansion accords you tried to enforce, but something built on mutual respect rather than forced compliance. You ask us to legitimize your violations, protested Ambassador Thrix, though the crystalline being's tone lacked its previous conviction. I ask you to recognize reality, Daniel corrected calmly. Humans have settled 19 worlds, you classified as uninhabitable death worlds. We have thrived on them. We have built cities, farms, schools, and hospitals. We are not leaving. The question is whether we do this as enemies or as neighbors. Elder Vorn of the Lumina spoke up, their bioluminescence pulsing thoughtfully. What guarantees can you offer that human expansion will not threaten our territories? The same guarantees you give us, Daniel replied. Transparent communication, mutually agreed borders, and most importantly, recognition that different species have different needs. You do not want our death worlds. We do not want your gentle paradise planets that would bore us. A ripple of what the translators interpreted as surprised laughter moved through some delegates. Humor in diplomatic proceedings was apparently novel for them. On Earth, Admiral Christine Boyd met with her senior staff for what she hoped would be the last wartime briefing. The tension of the past months was slowly easing from everyone's shoulders. The Council is voting today on the new coexistence framework, she announced. Intelligence suggests it will pass. Not unanimously, but it will pass. General Marcus Webb pulled up the latest fleet positions. We are maintaining defensive readiness, but we have pulled back the shadow ships. No need to keep reminding them what they cannot see. Smart, approved Colonel Lisa Martinez. Let them rebuild their confidence a little. Christine nodded in agreement. The key is balance. We proved we are not pushovers. Now we prove we are not conquerors either. What about the hardliners? Asked Commander Peter Hayes, who had been promoted after the New Haven standoff. The Velkrin and Kallax bloc still oppose any accommodation with humanity. They will come around, Marcus said confidently. Because, over the past 6 months, 37 Council species have signed individual trade agreements with human worlds. They are discovering that Deathworlders make excellent business partners. It was true. Human engineering had solved problems that stymied alien species for decades. Humans could work in environments that would kill most aliens. Human medical research, developed from fighting Earth's brutal diseases, had cured ailments thought incurable. Human agriculture, adapted to harsh conditions, had revolutionized food production on marginal worlds. Fear had brought the aliens to the negotiating table. Economics would keep them there. Back in the council chamber, the vote was called. Species by species. The tally appeared on holographic displays. When it finished, the new coexistence framework had passed, with 182 votes in favor, 41 against, and 14 abstentions. Daniel allowed himself a small smile. Not the cold smile that had frightened them before, but something warmer, more genuinely human. The Earth government accepts this framework, he announced. We look forward to building relationships based on mutual respect and honest acknowledgement of our differences. After the session ended, Chancellor Zoreth approached Daniel without the usual entourage of advisors. The two stood together in a quiet corner of the chamber. You knew we would vote this way, Zoreth said. It was not quite an accusation. I hoped you would, Daniel corrected. Humans are optimists. We have to be. To survive everything our planet threw at us over millions of years. I must ask something. Zoreth paused, gathering courage. During the standoff at New Haven, when we had 3,000 ships to your 15, could you really have destroyed us? I must ask something. Zoreth paused. Zoreth paused. Zoreth paused. I must ask something. Daniel considered the question carefully before answering. Destroyed completely? No. We are not that powerful. But we could have inflicted casualties that would have shocked your entire civilization. Losses on a scale you have not experienced in thousands of years. He met Zoreth's eyes directly. Would it have been worth it? No. But we were prepared to do it if necessary to defend our people. Why did you not attack first? You had every advantage. Because, Daniel said quietly, we have learned that survival is not just about winning fights. It is about knowing when not to fight. Every human war has taught us that lesson, usually the hard way. We have killed enough of each other to know that violence should be the last option, not the first. Zoreth was silent for a long moment. Your people terrify us. You know this. I do. But perhaps, the Chancellor continued slowly, terror can become respect. Given time. That is all we ask for, Daniel replied. Time and space to be what we are. We do not need you to become like us. We just need you to accept that the galaxy is big enough for both predators and prey to thrive together. On Earth, Christine Boyd received the vote results and authorized a fleet-wide stand-down. For the first time in 6 months, human ships powered down their weapons and returned to peacetime protocols. The relief was palpable across every vessel. We did it, Peter said, watching the status boards turn from red to green. We actually did it. We survived, Christine corrected gently. Again. Like we always do. Marcus raised a cup of coffee in salute. To Deathworlders everywhere. May we never have to prove what we are capable of. But always be ready to, if necessary, Lisa added. They drank to that simple truth. Across human space, from Earth's gleaming orbital stations to the frontier colonies on worlds that would kill any other species in minutes, people began to relax. The threat of war faded into memory. Trade routes opened cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. Cultural exchanges began. Tentative, but strengthening. And slowly, carefully, the galaxy learned to accommodate its newest members. The species from the Death World, the predators who smiled coldly when threatened but extended hands in friendship when accepted, the survivors of 10,000 generations of struggle who brought that same relentless drive to peace as they had shown in preparing for war. On New Haven, Governor Paul Wright stood at a ceremony dedicating a memorial to the crisis. It was a simple stone monument, with words carved in both human languages and alien scripts. Here we stood ready to defend our home. Here we chose peace over victory. May we always remember both truths. Children played around the memorial, unaware of how close they had come to experiencing war. Parents watched them with quiet gratitude. Life continued on the Deathworld colony that had almost become a battlefield. In orbit, the defense platforms remained active but no longer on high alert. The human warships that had faced down 3,000 alien vessels were reassigned to patrol duties and exploration missions. The fortress became a city again. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew aboard Shadowrunner received new orders. Instead of hunting alien fleets in the darkness, they would be escorting trade convoys and conducting surveys of uninhabited systems. Jake found he did not miss the tension of those stealth operations. Strange how quickly things change, Helen Brooks observed as they prepared for their first peaceful mission in months. Not so strange, Jake replied. We proved our point. Now we get to prove we are more than just warriors. Think the peace will last? Jake considered the question while watching stars drift past on the view screen. As long as both sides remember the lessons learned. The aliens learned we are dangerous. We learned we can show restraint. Both lessons matter. Ambassador Daniel Hayes returned to Earth for the first time in a year. His family met him at the spaceport with hugs and relief. His brother Peter was there, still in uniform, grinning widely. The hero returns, Peter joked. No heroes, Daniel corrected. Just people doing their jobs under difficult circumstances. Their mother hugged Daniel tightly. We watched every broadcast. We were so scared for you. I was scared too, Daniel admitted. But we had to show them we would not back down. Fear can be useful if you control it, rather than letting it control you. Over the following months, the changes continued accelerating. Alien tourists began visiting Earth, though only the hardiest species could tolerate the gravity and atmosphere. Human engineers found work across the galaxy, solving problems in harsh environments. Scientists collaborated on research projects that combined human tenacity with alien innovation. Young humans grew up knowing that the galaxy was vast and diverse, filled with beings very different from themselves. They learned that being predators did not make them monsters. That being from a death world did not make them barbarians. That strength was measured not just in the capacity for violence, but in the wisdom to avoid it. 15 years after the standoff at New Haven, the galaxy had transformed in ways nobody could have predicted. Ambassador Daniel Hayes stood in his office on Earth, packing the last of his personal belongings. After 2 decades of diplomatic service, he was finally retiring. His replacement arrived early for the transition meeting. Sophie Hayes was his niece, a young woman who had grown up hearing stories of the day humanity almost went to war with the galaxy. She looked around the office with wide eyes. Hard to believe this is where it all happened, Sophie said, touching the desk where Daniel had received the declaration of war so many years ago. This is just where I got the message, Daniel corrected with a smile. It happened in 1,000 places. On ships, in bunkers, in council chambers across space. Millions of people played their parts. Sophie nodded, understanding. Uncle Daniel, can I ask you something? Were you really as calm as everyone says? When they declared war? Daniel laughed softly. Calm? No. I was terrified. But I had learned something important in my years dealing with aliens. They could smell fear, in their own way. So I showed them something else. Confidence. The certainty that we would survive whatever they threw at us. The cold smile. The cold smile, Daniel agreed. It was not about being fearless. It was about being a predator who knows his own strength. They spent the afternoon reviewing current diplomatic situations. The galaxy was very different now. Trade between human and alien worlds had increased tenfold. Mixed species research stations operated throughout explored space. Some aliens even lived on human worlds, in specially designed habitats that protected them from the harsh conditions. The Velkrin have requested human assistance with a climate crisis on one of their colonies. Sophie read from the reports. They are specifically asking for engineers experienced with extreme weather. Ironic, Daniel commented. 15 years ago, They wanted us gone. Now they need our expertise with harsh environments. Times change. People change, Daniel corrected. Given the chance and the right motivation, on New Haven, now a thriving world of 5 million people, Governor Paul Wright had also retired. His successor was his former deputy, Karen Foster. She stood at the memorial stone, preparing for the 15th anniversary ceremony. The colony had grown far beyond anyone's expectations. What had been a frontier settlement was now a major hub of trade and culture. Alien ships regularly docked at the orbital stations, their crews fascinated by the death world below. "Hard to believe we almost fought a war here," said Captain Raymond Cole, commander of the orbital defense grid. The platforms were still there, still functional, but now they mostly served as traffic control for the busy space lanes. "Not almost," Karen corrected. "We did fight a war. We just won it without firing shots." "You think it could happen again?" Karen looked at the busy spaceport, the mixed crowds of humans and various alien species. "Anything could happen, but we are better prepared now. Both sides understand each other better, and we have built relationships that would make war much more costly for everyone." At the ceremony, she addressed a crowd of thousands. Humans and aliens stood together, listening to the translation of her words. 15 years ago, this colony stood ready to defend itself against an armada of 3,000 ships. We were prepared to fight, prepared to die if necessary, but we were also prepared to show mercy and seek peace. She paused, looking at the diverse crowd. "We succeeded not because we were the strongest, but because we were wise enough to know when to show strength and when to show restraint." The crowd applauded, the sound mixing with alien-equivalent gestures of approval. On the alien homeworld of Velkrin, Chancellor Zorath had also retired from public service. The former leader now taught at a university, lecturing on diplomatic history and cross-species relations. Today's lecture focused on the New Haven crisis. "We made every mistake possible," Zorath told the students, a mix of young Velkrin and exchange students from other species, including 3 humans. "We assumed that superior numbers guaranteed victory. We assumed that Deathworlders were simply barbarians with weapons. We assumed that our way of thinking was universal." One student asked, "What changed your mind?" "Ambassador Hayes," Zorath replied immediately. "In our private conversation, he made me understand something crucial. Humans were not our enemies. They were simply different, and we were trying to force them to be like us, which they could never be." A human student raised her hand. "Did you really believe we would destroy your fleet?" Zorath considered the question carefully. "I believed you could hurt us badly enough that the cost would be unacceptable. That was enough. War is not about total destruction. It is about making the price of conflict higher than the value of whatever you are fighting for." The lessons learned at New Haven had become standard curriculum across the galaxy. Military academies studied the crisis as an example of psychological warfare and strategic patience. Diplomatic schools analyzed it as a case study in cross-cultural communication under pressure. Aboard the now-retired battlecruiser Indomitable, which served as a museum in Earth orbit, Admiral Christine Boyd gave tours to schoolchildren. She was in her 70s now, still sharp but happy to share her experiences with new generations. "This is where we monitored the alien fleet," she explained, showing them the command center that had been preserved exactly as it was during the crisis. "Right here, we watched 3,000 ships approach, and we had to decide what to do." "Were you scared?" asked a young boy. "Absolutely," Christine replied honestly. "Anyone who says they were not scared in that situation is either lying or foolish. Fear is natural. What matters is what you do with that fear." "What did you do?" "I used it. Fear sharpened my thinking. It made me careful, but I did not let it control me. And I trusted my training, my crew, and my fellow humans across the fleet." The children asked many questions. How big were the alien ships? What weapons did humans have? Did anyone die? Christine answered them all patiently, helping them understand that the real victory had been avoiding unnecessary death on both sides. In the Galactic Council chamber, now relocated to a neutral space station managed jointly by multiple species, the current assembly debated new expansion proposals. Human and alien representatives worked together on committees, disagreeing often but resolving conflicts through discussion rather than threats. The current human ambassador was Gregory Chen, a career diplomat who had learned from Daniel Hayes. He stood to address the council on a proposal for joint exploration of a dangerous new sector of space. The region contains multiple Deathworld candidates, Gregory explained. High radiation, extreme gravity, hostile environments. Most species here cannot survive there, even with protective equipment. Then why explore it at all? Asked a Kallax representative. Because humans can survive there, Gregory replied. And where we can survive, we can build. Where we can build, we can create opportunities for research, resource extraction, and scientific discovery that benefit everyone. The vote passed easily. What would have been controversial 15 years ago was now routine. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders could go places and do things that other species could not. And rather than fearing that capability, most aliens now saw it as valuable. On a joint research station studying extreme stellar phenomena, Dr. Nina Parker worked alongside alien scientists from 6 different species. The station orbited dangerously close to an unstable star, close enough that the radiation would be lethal to most species within hours. For Nina and her human colleagues, it was just another day at the office. The shielding on your habitat is holding? She asked her Lumina colleague through the communication link. Perfectly, Elder Kresh replied. The Lumina's habitat was heavily shielded and maintained, at much lower radiation levels. Though, I still do not understand how you can work in such conditions. Nina laughed. Evolution. Our ancestors survived radiation, toxic atmospheres, and predators that would give you nightmares. We adapted. That is what Deathworlders do. I am grateful for it. Without humans, this research would be impossible. That sentiment was echoed across hundreds of similar projects throughout the galaxy. Humans worked in environments that other species considered uninhabitable. They solved problems that required the kind of stubborn persistence that came from evolving on a planet that constantly tried to kill you. And in return, aliens shared technologies and knowledge that humans could not have developed alone. Faster-than-light communication methods, medical techniques based on completely different biological systems, art and philosophy that challenged human assumptions. It was cooperation based on honest recognition of differences, neither side pretending to be what they were not. Sophie Hayes attended her first Galactic Council session as official ambassador. She walked down the same corridor her uncle had walked 15 years earlier. But the atmosphere was completely different. Delegates greeted her warmly. Several aliens approached to welcome her personally. An elderly Velcrin intercepted her. It was one of Zorith's former advisors from the crisis. You have the Hayes smile, the Velcrin observed. Sophie grinned. So I am told. But these days, when we smile, it is because we are happy, not because we are showing our teeth. The Velcrin's translator approximated laughter. Your uncle would approve. Come, let me show you around. We have a vote today on joint colony development. Very exciting. Humans and Threen working together to settle a marginal world. As Sophie followed the former adversary into the chamber, she thought about everything her uncle had told her about being human in a galaxy that once feared humanity. Never apologize for what you are. Humanity had declared their identity clearly 15 years ago. They were dangerous, yes. They were predators from a death world. But they were also builders, explorers, and partners. They could be fierce defenders or generous friends. The galaxy had learned to accept all of it, and in doing so, both humans and aliens had created something neither could have achieved alone. A civilization where differences were strengths, not weaknesses. Where prey and predators did not just coexist peacefully, but collaborated to achieve goals beyond what either could accomplish separately. The aliens had declared war on humanity, and the Deathworlder ambassador had smiled coldly. But that smile had hidden a deeper truth. Humans did not want to conquer. They wanted to survive and thrive. They wanted homes for their children and opportunities to explore and grow. And when given the choice between destroying their enemies or converting them into neighbors, humanity had chosen the harder path. The path that required patience, wisdom, and restraint. It had worked, not perfectly. There were still tensions, still misunderstandings, still occasional conflicts. But the foundation of mutual respect held firm. Sophie took her seat in the council chamber, ready to continue the work her uncle had started. The work of proving that Deathworlders belonged among the stars, not as conquerors or monsters, but as full partners in building a better galaxy. The vote was called. Species after species voiced their opinions. Humans and aliens working together, arguing sometimes, but always talking, always trying, always moving forward together. And somewhere on Earth, Daniel Hayes watched the broadcast of his niece's first council session. He smiled, warm and proud. No cold calculation this time. Just an old diplomat who had helped change the galaxy, watching the next generation carry the work forward. The Deathworlders had proven themselves. Now they would build the future. One day, one decision, one act of cooperation at a time. The smile had been cold when humanity needed to show strength, but now it could be warm with genuine friendship. That was the real victory. Not winning the war, but building the peace that came after. And the aliens, slowly and sometimes reluctantly, learned their own lessons. That the universe was not as safe as they had believed. That different forms of life required different approaches to existence. That the humans, for all their frightening capabilities, wanted peace as much as anyone. The Galactic Council continued its work, but now with human representatives participating fully in every discussion. The debates were sometimes heated. Cultural misunderstandings happened regularly, but both sides kept talking, kept negotiating, kept finding ways to coexist, because they had learned the most important lesson of all. That war was easy to start but hard to end. That peace required constant work and patience. That understanding could bridge even the vast gap between prey and predators. Humanity had come to the stars not as conquerors, but as themselves. Dangerous when cornered, generous when befriended, always watching, always ready, always surviving. The aliens had declared war, and humanity had responded not with extermination, but with education. They taught the galaxy that Deathworlders could be neighbors, partners, and friends, as long as you never forgot what they were capable of when protecting what they loved. Cheers erupted across the colony. People hugged each other in the streets. Children asked their parents what it all meant. Parents struggled to explain that they had just witnessed something rare in human history. A war won without bloodshed. A victory achieved through preparation, demonstration, and calculated psychological pressure. The aliens had learned that Deathworlders were dangerous not just because of their weapons, but because of their minds. But Daniel and Christine both knew this was not truly over. It was just the end of the beginning. The aliens would return to their worlds, and they would have to decide something fundamental. Could they share a galaxy with humans? Could prey and predators coexist peacefully? Time would answer that question. But humanity had made its position absolutely clear. They would defend what was theirs. They would not submit to unjust demands. They would show mercy when possible, but never, ever mistake mercy for weakness. That was the lesson of New Haven. The lesson the galaxy would remember. Either way, humanity had already won. The aliens just did not realize it yet. In the darkness between the fleets, Captain Jake Morrison kept his ship on station, weapons ready. Around New Haven, human defenders waited at their posts. Across human space, fleets positioned themselves for rapid response. The Deathworlders were ready for whatever came next. And the aliens, for the first time in their long, peaceful history, faced a choice that could end in blood, their blood, ants, on alien relations. My fellow humans, she began. The Galactic Council has declared war on us. They demand we surrender our freedoms, abandon our homes, and submit to their control. I have one response to these demands. She paused for effect. No. The simple word echoed across Earth and every human colony. We did not ask for this war. We tried peaceful coexistence. But we will not surrender what we have built. We will not abandon our people. We will defend ourselves with every resource we possess. Her voice grew stronger. The aliens think we are barbaric, violent, dangerous. They are right. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day of our evolution. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators. We are the descendants of the toughest species Earth ever produced. So, let the aliens come. Let them learn what it means to threaten a Deathworlder's home. Let them discover why humanity not only survived but thrived. We are ready. Number 7. Number 70. The broadcast ended. Across human space, people felt their resolve harden. They were scared, yes, but they were also angry. And humans were very, very dangerous when they were angry. The countdown continued. 26 days until the alien ultimatum expired. But everyone knew the war had already begun. It was just being fought in shadows and silence, in preparation and positioning. The aliens gathered their grand fleet. Humanity sharpened its claws. And in the darkness between the stars, Captain Jake Morrison and his fellow hunters waited for the perfect moment to strike. The Deathworlders were ready. These aliens. A lesson about picking fights with predators. Across human space, similar conversations happened on 1,000 ships. Humanity was not the largest military force in the galaxy. They did not have the most ships or the biggest weapons, but they had something the aliens lacked. They had experience, real experience. Humanity had fought wars for thousands of years. They had battled each other across continents and oceans. They had survived plagues, ice ages, and near extinctions. Every generation had faced some disaster and found a way to survive. The aliens had lived in peace for 3,000 years. Their last conflict had been 800 years ago. It lasted 3 days and resulted in 2 casualties. 2. Humanity lost more people than that in training accidents. The aliens thought war was about having bigger numbers and making threats. Humanity knew better. War was about strategy, deception, psychology, and the will to do whatever it took to protect your own. The 30-day countdown had begun. The aliens were gathering their fleet in a grand show of force. They planned to overwhelm humanity with numbers and spectacle. They had no idea what was coming. They did not understand that they had just cornered the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy. And cornered predators do not surrender. They fight. Admiral Christine Boyd looked at the star map showing the alien fleet positions. She smiled the same cold smile her brother Daniel had shown the council. "Let them come," she said softly. "Let them learn why you should never, ever, threaten a Deathworlder's home." The war was coming, but it would not be the war the aliens expected.